Hello, YouTubers. Reloading Bench back with you once again. And it's pretty obvious what this video is going to be about. No machining, no woodworking, no restoration, no reloading. What else? No collecting, no antiquing. This is pew stuff. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with this particular logo, that's a DW and that's a nice red X. So this is a Dan Wesson unbagging, I guess. And we're going to call this the West Coast edition of the DWX. And I'll go into why that is so here in a few minutes. But this might not be the DWX you're thinking of. And for those unfamiliar, this is the DWX that came out in about a year ago. SHOT Show. It was a darling of SHOT Show. And for a number of reasons. One, this particular gun was in development, and sorry for the picture, it's pretty terrible. These are actually red, not copper or brown. Go figure for an HP laser color printer. Picture looked nice and red, but the printout doesn't. But in any case, when this particular hybrid, and I call it a hybrid because it takes the best of some of the CZ space and then some of the Colt space. It's kind of like if a 1911 and a CZ75 had an offspring, this is what it would be. So you have the top half that's very 1911-ish, and you have the bottom half that's very CZ-ish, save for the trigger. And when this came out, I think it was announced in SHOT 2019, maybe SHOT Show 2020, either one of those. And it was delayed for a long time, like 3+ years. I don't know if that was supply chain issues, materials issue, whatever. It didn't ship until 2023. And by 2023, the firearms market had changed. There is an obsession requirement for a red dot sight system, whether that be plate or direct mount, for any new semi. In fact, I'm now seeing it on revolvers, which looks really goofy, but it is what it is. So there is an industry obsession, real or imagined, with every new firearm having to come out with a red dot system, a plate or direct mount, as I've said. In fact, the big surprise for 2024 was the Hudson H9 being unveiled by Daniel Defense as the Daniel H9, which they should have called it the Daniel Defense D9. The Hudson H stood for the Hudson. It's not a Hudson. In name only, it's an H9 because I think everything but one sear connector was swapped out. The gun is not the same gun, again, in name only. But one of the points was the Daniel H9 had a plate system, so it was cut for an RDS. And again, that just shows you where the market is at. And I think all the reviews for this in 23 were awesome, except for a couple of points, and the biggest one being that RDS cut. So that was an unfortunate. But onto this particular, as I call it, the West Coast edition. For this DWX, as I probably hit the camera, this is mine, and this is what makes mine a West Coast edition. My 10-round standard mag. This is a neutered version because of my state's requirements, and this is a DWX compact. And as you can see, it's unloaded. There is a chamber flag in here for all the worried folks about gunnage. All right, so this is a DWX compact. And when this first came out, yeah, I was salivating. I was like, oh, that's just cool, too cool. And then I saw the West Coast prices for, a rostered state with a roster, and this is an off-roster offering. And these were going for $5,000 to $6,000. And this is I think it was introduced at $18.99 or $19.99. Let's just call it $2,000. So even at $2,000, this was a premium over, say, a CZ75 or any CZ semi-automatic pistol, which is all steel. And this is not all steel. In fact, the only thing that's steel is the top, the slide release, the safety, the hammer. Trigger is aluminum, and so is the bottom half of the frame. So it's a lightweight material, kind of like, where Hudson H9 failed. They announced the aluminum lightweight frame before they could fulfill all their other orders, and ended up going belly up. Bad business practice. But, I like the anodized red. Kind of reminds me of my paintball days. Red and black were some favorite paintball colors for our markers. But it's a much smaller gun. 4 1/4 commander size, which is something I like to run. It's got a very sleek set of lines, battle hook on the rear sight. The front sight is a Mepro. I think it's a Ameriglow tritium center, which I don't really care about for the night sight, with a nice bright round yellow ring. And then, a U-notch for that rear, and hopefully that's getting picked up by the camera. But in any case, there were some slight differences in this than this. So this came out, January of 2023. This came out, I want to say, April timeframe, maybe a little later, maybe a little earlier. And when this one came out, this was I would really like to get my hands on one of those. And this was, I think, at the time in the 4,000 range. And, I put a wanted to buy ad up, and people were making fun of me because of my price. They're like, dude, you can't touch this for under $4. I'm like, yeah, we'll see. And the market, in my opinion, has fizzled on this particular, in my opinion. I don't know if that's true from a sales perspective, because of some of the shortcomings, most notably that plate system or direct mount system for a red dot sight. So I was thinking at SHOT 24 this year, how hard could it be? The gun is already designed. How hard could it be to implement a plate system or a direct mount system for either one of these models, and just call them the DWX Plus or the DWX-E Enhanced? I think that's what Rock Island did with their latest incarnation of a not quite 2011. But again, the whole point is missed market, in my opinion. But I favor this particular version of the DWX over this, and for a few reasons. One, I'm not too hip on the bright red aluminum. I mean, this is fine as an accent. This is getting a little too pimpy, and not my cup of tea. I'm fine with black. I might swap these out. These, again, one of the selling points, CZ 75 compact, both in the magazine as well as the grips space. But there are some subtle differences between these two models, aside from the 5-inch and 4 1/4-inch slide size / barrel length, that the appeal of this one is much more significant. I'm not interested in owning this. If somebody dropped one off on my doorstep, I'd be a happy camper, but that's not happening. So with my money, I choose to add this particular DWX to the channel, and we'll see where it goes with this particular model. But the reasons for me that I like this one better than this one are probably some of the reasons why people like this one over this one. And most notably, I don't like a rail. I'm not the biggest rail fan. I'm not going to run lights on everything. Home defense, maybe. This isn't a home defense weapon. Home defense for me is Tupperware, because it would get taken in a shooting. So I don't want to lose what I would call a nicer handgun as opposed to a $500 piece of Tupperware, a Glock or a Shield or an M&P, something of that caliber, which is a good, stable platform, reliable, but when the police take it away after a potential shooting, not a problem. But this one I wouldn't want to part with. So I wasn't a fan of a rail on a commander size, and the Daniel H9 does have a rail. I didn't care about a plate system because I like to rock open sights and irons. So for me, this is just perfect. I wasn't really enamored with this rear sight, this adjustable rear sight. I'm more of a fan of combat sights, which this is. This is non-adjustable, and with the U-notch, and I don't remember what the notch in this one was. And then we get to the front sights. I'm not against fiber optic, no complaints. But this combination, yeah, it just didn't appeal to me. Whereas this one does. I mean, that sight picture is great. I like that particular front sight in combination with the U-notch rear sight from, who's this by? Battle Hook. I've looked them up. They sell sights. Another differentiator for me, which a lot of people are, must-haves, is there's no ambi on this. And I'm cool with that because I'm right-handed, so I'm only going to use my right hand. And people say, oh, well, what happens when you have to shoot off? I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm not a fan of ambi. In fact, if this was available as a deselect, I would not opt for the ambi safety. So I like a single safety on the left side. Other than that, I think that covers, the likes and dislikes. I don't know if this was a full steel frame or if this was also aluminum. I can't honestly remember, but again, not make it or break it for me. I will say that this particular safety is a lot more tactile than, say, my Ed Brown 1911, in that that's hecka loud. And it's not difficult to engage or disengage. And that's because I did this for about 500 times, because when I first tried to do it, I couldn't even do it with my thumb. I'm like, whoa, what happened here? And then I had to use my off finger thumb to actually engage it. Disengaging was not a problem. So if you run condition 1, very easy to disengage. You're not going to accidentally put this in safety. That is for sure. The other thing I'm not too keen on is in measuring the trigger pull. I came up with 375, a couple different pulls between 3.75, and I did some that were 375, some were at 4, and some were at 4 1/4. So I'm going to say I have a half a pound of difference in this particular trigger, from 375 upwards of 4 1/4 pounds. I do not like the amount of pre-travel, and then in terms of reset, reset's not as bad, but the pre-travel that's a lot of movement there. And because this is very similar to a 1911 on the bottom half, minus the takedown, it doesn't have a barrel link, so it is, more CZ-ish in terms of the takedown. Just essentially pull that, pop the rod, or pop the other side of the takedown, and off comes the slide. In terms of the trigger, because this is very 1911-ish, it does have a 1911 looking sear spring. From what I can tell, it looked like, and I haven't had this apart yet, it looked like the third tine, the rightmost tine, was shortened, and there's no reason for the third tine on this particular pistol because there is no grip safety. Kind of like some of the 2011s where they're pinned. So, there's nothing to do grip safety wise. So that tine is wasted. So the middle tine is going to be that pre-travel and reset. Careful of the hammer follow in terms of adjusting that. So I'll probably do very similar to what I did with my Prodigy platform, and that's take a new, not this sear spring, and start adjusting that to get me down to a sub 3 pound trigger, and then less pre-travel. The reset's not bad, the pre-travel, so I'll play with it. Again, getting it down as close to around 3 pounds as possible for me and my likes. But I'll do that after I take it out to the range. So I'm not going to start mucking with it until after some range time and see how it actually fires. I did bore sight it, and it looks like, based on the laser bore, that point of aim is point of impact. Again, we'll find that out at the range. But You know, it should be a pretty easy, from other things I've seen, you just pop these panels off. There is your pin for your mainspring. Pop that out, big mainspring, and then you can adjust the sear spring or replace it. So I'll take out the OEM, keep it off to the side, and then muck around with another one that I've purchased over time, and see what that how that works out to be. So looking forward to it. You know, I was salivating over this particular pew when it first came out. I'm not disappointed. It feels great. It's light compared to a CZ75, which is almost the same form factor, significantly lighter than that. You know, for people who go gaga over, you know, the 2011s, 15 round magazines plus and all that good stuff. You know, hey, Beretta was doing that back in the 80s, so 40 years ago. So to me, it's not a big deal. Running 10 rounds in my state, you know, it is what it is until the magazine bans, you know, work their way through the court system, and then we can once again have standard capacity magazines and not be limited or neutered in terms of what we can do. And then it'll be a purchase of a bunch of magazines. But until then, you know, if I can't hit what I'm aiming at with 10 rounds, shame on me. But I'm looking forward to some range time, and we'll report back out with this very, very beautiful addition to the channel. So good stuff. Welcome, DWX.